and welcome back to By Myself But Not Alone. This is episode 18, Spokane, Washington. With the completion of this episode, we will have crossed the halfway point. We're a little over halfway now, 18 of 35. We've still got a long way to go, but I'm just really happy to have made it to this point. At the end of the last episode, we said goodbye to our friend Rob, packed up our things, and headed for Interstate 84. Now, we basically had two direct routes to choose from. One went straight up into Montana and over to Spokane, and the other one would take us right back through Boise and then into Oregon, and then up to Spokane that way. It looked like they were about the same distance, and either way we chose was going to take about the same amount of time, a little over 11 hours. We decided we were going to take I-84 back through Boise. We came to this conclusion based on talking to quite a few people in Boise and then again in Salt Lake City. When I was out doing my thing, anytime I encountered someone that was from out that way and was familiar with the area, I made it a point to ask them if they had to choose, would they go up through Montana or through Boise? And just about every single person said if it was up to them, they would take the Boise route. So I wasn't going to argue, and that's what we did. Most of the people that advised that we go through Boise were considering the weather. In the next couple days, there was a good chance of some snow up in Montana, and based on what they know from living out there, they said you don't want to get caught in Montana during a snowstorm. There was one part of that trip that came up time and time again. I believe every single person that told me to go that way did bring up the one downfall. There was one stretch of road to get through the Blue Mountains. You had to go down Cabbage Hill at Dead Man Pass. And again, every single person brought that up. But most of them said, based on the forecast, there shouldn't be any problems. It's really not as bad as people say, unless you get into some weather, and then it will indeed live up to its reputation. I really wasn't too sure what that meant, but they were all saying it, so it kind of made me wonder, but I knew we had a long trip ahead of us, and we could get on Google and learn all about where we were headed before we got there. We had absolutely no idea, but if we did, we would have risked the snow in Montana. You can take that one to the bank. So anyway, that was our plan. We hit the road. At about an hour and a half into our trip, we ended up at a place called Devil's Creek RV Park. We kept losing our cell signal, and it started to snow pretty good, so we figured we were going to pull off somewhere and try to pick up a signal just to make sure we were on the right track. When we got pulled over, we got a signal, and our old friend Google lady told us that we had gone the wrong way at the Y in the highway. There was pretty much snow on the ground already. It was coming down pretty hard, and looking down the highway the way we were headed, the skies were dark, so we figured it would be in our best interest to backtrack and get on Interstate 84 and go the way we had originally planned. If we did it that way, the mistake was going to cost us an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but we agreed, better safe than sorry. So we backtracked and hit I-84. When we got back on track, we didn't have any problem with snow. We could see it off in the distance in the other direction. We were pretty proud of ourselves for making the right choice, or so we thought. It was a nice peaceful drive to Boise, very scenic. We finally crossed into Oregon and everything was good, but in the distance, the skies didn't look too promising. When we got to the point where you could see the Blue Mountains in the distance, they were completely white, and the skies above them were like completely dark. I don't want to say black, but it didn't look pretty. Michelle was on her phone learning all sorts of interesting things about the road we were on. It was really good to know that we were about to hit one of the most treacherous stretches of highway in the United States. The more she read, the worse it seemed. When we hit the point where the road started going up, we were headed up the mountain. It didn't take long and the snow started falling. The higher we went, the faster and harder it came. It really wasn't anything like the snow that Rob and I dealt with in Colorado a week ago. It was actually much worse because of how thick the fog was getting. About halfway up, we pulled into a rest area, and at that point, it really started coming down. We actually considered sleeping there in the car and then getting up really early and dealing with it the next day. The problem with that plan is we still had a long way to go, and once we got there, we'd still have to find a hotel, get checked in, do all that stuff, so we decided it would probably be smart if we kept going. We really weren't sure what to do, but we knew we were losing valuable time in not doing anything at all. That's when I said, well, look at it this way. If it's our destiny to die on our way to see Metallica, all our friends will be able to say, well, at least they died doing what they love. Michelle just kind of stared at me like she was confused at what I had said, and then she said, well, that's a stupid way to look at it, but for once I agree with you, let's go. So we got back in the car and went. By the time we made it to the top of the mountain, visibility was insanely low. We might have been able to see 10 yards in front of the car. You could still see the road and the stripe, but that was about it. We knew we had made it to the top because we saw a sign for another rest area and a scenic view of Dead Man Pass. So we went ahead and pulled in. There were two little buildings, a small bathroom, and then I guess it was a ranger station off in the distance. We got out, we had a smoke, and again we had to decide if we were going to spend the night there or if we were going to keep on going. This time, due to the excess fog, it just seemed like it might be a smart idea if we went ahead and spend the night there. We kind of looked around for a minute, and it just really seemed like a creepy place, like something you'd see in a horror movie. So once again, I had to offer some words of wisdom, and I said, well, from the looks of things, if we spend the night here, we just might get axe murdered. Michelle just said, nope, that's my job. Nobody's going to cheat me out of axe murdering you, and it looks like tonight might be the night if we ever make it to a damn hotel. So with that, we got in the car and headed back towards the highway, and we made one final stop at the sign that said Dead Man Pass. We took a deep breath, made a right, and headed for a highway that we could not see. We were in the entrance lane of the highway, and the visibility had decreased further from when we had pulled off, and by the time we actually got in the lane of the highway itself, visibility went to non-existent. I've never seen anything like it. You couldn't see 10 feet in front of the car. It was just a giant wall of fog that wrapped around us. The only thing I could see other than fog was a faint flickering from where the light was hitting the stripe on the side of the road. I could barely make it out. The temperature up there was well below freezing, so combine that with the fog and you had ice on the roads. The line on the side of the road was our only hope. It was pretty consistent, but at times it broke up from snow or ice or whatever was on the road covering it up. Michelle had her phone out with Google Maps pulled up so we could hopefully get some kind of idea which way the road would be turning as we approached it. But it was just the biggest nightmare you can imagine. I was certain that we were doomed. We were going to die that night. I just didn't know how. Were we going to drive off of something? Were we going to run into something? Was a truck going to hit us from behind? Maybe just a car? It was horrible. I can't even begin to explain what it was like. We were on a road with a 6% grade, covered in ice and snow, surrounded in fog, constant risk of a truck or another vehicle hitting us from behind. On top of all that, you have the switchbacks where you're curving down the mountain left and right. You never go straight down a mountain. Combine all those factors, and the only deduction I could make was death. Death was imminent. I just did not know how. I could just tell that Michelle was just as freaked out as I was. We really didn't know what to do except keep on driving. We never crossed 10 miles an hour, so if nothing else, we were certainly going to get hit from behind. We were passed 4 times on that stretch. 2 semis, 1 pickup truck, and 1 car. I couldn't figure out how they were going any faster than we were. They certainly couldn't see any more than we could. The only thing I could assume was they were local and they knew the road, but that just wasn't very comforting. And as if all that wasn't bad enough, there were times when we lost the phone signal. Fortunately, when that happened, the map would stay on the screen. It wasn't in real time anymore, but we could still kind of see what was coming, and then it would pick up again. It never stayed out too long, but it was just one more factor in an already horrific equation. Now, I've been in some crazy situations in vehicles in my life, but nothing like this. I was more terrified that night than I've ever been in a car, and I could just tell the same was true for Michelle. We got to a point pretty quickly on that 7-mile stretch where the only thing that either one of us said was Michelle telling me which way the road was going to be turning based on what she saw on the phone. And again, we couldn't go any faster than maybe 10 miles an hour on that entire stretch. And after what seemed like an eternity, the fog started to lift, and you can see faint flickering of cars on the other side of the highway coming, their headlights. And at that point, the incline of the road seemed to be gone. It leveled out. We were on flat ground. We had made it. Neither one of us said a word. We just drove along in silence. We were still both freaked out. The anxiety level was as dense as the fog we had just come through. We finally came up to an exit where we could see a big gas station sign, so we took the exit. We pulled in the station and we got out of the car. We were just standing there staring at each other. We were trying to catch our breath. I looked down and I could see my heartbeat in my wrist. My vein was just pumping. Then I looked up, and without giving it any thought, I said, that was so fucked. My heart's about to explode, and now I'm going to scream like a little girl. And I yelled at the top of my lungs, just staring right at her. Her expression didn't change. But then I heard somebody say, "You okay, buddy?" And there was a guy over there pumping his gas. I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. That mountain tried to kill us." And he just laughed and said, "Well, you ain't the first person that mountain scared, but I wouldn't have tried it tonight." After that, I looked at her and said, "I'm sorry. I had to get that out. I had to do something." And she said, No, don't be sorry. It's okay." Pretty much emotionless. She looked like she had seen a ghost. And that was before I yelled. She wasn't looking too good. But she said, "We got to go. We've still got a long way to go. We got to get out of here." So we pulled around, got some gas, got something to drink, and hit the road. We still had 200 miles to go. We were so far behind schedule with the initial screw up and backtracking, and then spots of weather here and there once we got past Boise. Then the little incident at Dead Man Pass. It was after 4 a.m. by the time we got settled into our hotel. Our 11-hour trip had turned into a 20-hour trip, but we had finally made it. We got a few hours sleep before waking up and heading down to the Spokane Veterans Memorial Arena. We got there a little later in the day than we had at the first 3 shows on the leg, but neither one of us really seemed to care about that. We were alive. It was also pretty darn cold that day, and the wind was blowing right on the side of the building where they had our line set up. I didn't get to talk to nearly as many people as I had been talking to before each show, but I did manage to get 3 good interviews before they let us in. When we got inside, I went back to the soundboard and I was able to catch Jim and Joe before their show started, and I gave them each a black ticket roamer patch. I had been meaning to do that, and I finally caught up to them. They both seemed to like it. They were very appreciative, and something that happened, it was pretty cool when you've got a comedian of that caliber make a personalized joke in a moment with you. Jim looked at me and he said, "Let's see how much this thing will bring on eBay." He rolled his head back and gave that sinister laugh as he turned and headed backstage, and that was just another one of those little moments in time that I won't forget. The show itself was a wild one. It was wild in ways that I hadn't seen until that point. I met some very interesting characters before the show. There seemed to be a bit of an aggressive vibe that night, and during the show I saw several fights break out up in the seats. That's just something that you don't see very often, fights at Metallica shows. I only remember seeing one, and that was a rowdy drunk against the cops, so I don't even know if that counts as a fight. I saw a couple that night, and I heard other people talking about it after the show, how rare that is. I hung out back by the soundboard for most of that show, but then when it got near pick time, everybody kind of slides up and in, hoping to get a pick or two. My friend Matt Van Horn and I went around the side of the stage. I only ended up getting 1 pick. I got a couple face picks. I got 1 Spokane pick, but Matt came up with 3 or 4, and he knew my chase, trying to get 2 per show, so he was happy to give me 1. I'm not certain I ever squared up with him, so Matt, if you're watching this, if I owe you a pick, shoot me a message. We'll square up. I probably did square up with him somewhere along the line, but if I didn't, let me know. Shout out, brother. Thanks for the pick that night. There were over 13,000 people in attendance that night. They broke another attendance record for the venue, the Spokane Arena there. I believe they broke Neil Diamond's record, and if you break an attendance record set by Neil Diamond, you got something going on. I also remember reading an article, the All Within My Hands Foundation left another $10,000 check at the local food bank. That's something they did all along the way. The All Within My Hands Foundation does great things. If you don't know much about them, look them up. We had a great set list mix that night. We had Leper Messiah, Motor Breath, Blackened. For me, the song of the night that night was The Day That Never Comes. It just felt really good that night. After the show, we said goodnight. We headed back to the hotel with every intention of sleeping in. That's what we did. So we finally got up, got checked out. We were heading out of town. We were at a stoplight. And from the stoplight, you could see a Goodwill sign a little further down the road. So I jokingly said, "Hey, you want to hit the Goodwill before we leave?" Michelle said, "Are you kidding? I'm going to hit you if we don't." So it was there in Spokane that we learned that we shared the passion for the Goodwill treasure hunt. We pulled on in. Once again, we were going to be a little behind schedule, but it was going to be okay because we had that extra day off after the 4th show. I'd like to say thanks to the crowd in Spokane. You really made that a fun place to be that night. To everyone else, I'd like to say, if you ever find yourself in Salt Lake City having to decide if you want to go through Boise or Montana to get to Spokane, Washington, go Montana all the way. I will never go back to Cabbage Hill as long as I live. I'd also like to say, as always, thanks for watching. If you like what we have going on here, we'd appreciate it greatly if you consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a like, a dislike, whatever the case may be. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. If you find yourself in one of the videos, please feel free to share it to social media and help us grow the project. Next stop, Portland, Oregon. We'll see you there. Until then, rock on. All right, who are you and where are you from?
Hi, my name's Troy Buffard. I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska.
All right. Haven't talked to anybody from Alaska yet.
I'm Romina from Germany, Dortmund, Northwest Germany. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
All righty. In the Met Club forums, what's your name?
Lightning Arrows.
All righty.
A frequent user, so I bet you'll find me.
My name is Sarah. I'm from San Diego, California.
How long have you been a Metallica fan?
Since they started mid-'80s is when I really caught on. I was in junior high at the time, and then really hit me hard when I was in the Gulf War and the Black Album came out, and that caught me forever.
I think it's about 10 years. It started out in my teenage years, and I just fell in love.
Since the Load era, when I was in high school.
Quite a while now.
Yeah, for about 20 years.
Have you seen them live before?
Oh yeah, a couple times this year. Sweden, Stockholm, awesome show, and then we went to Seattle.
Stockholm, sure. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we got Indianapolis tickets coming up.
Yeah, sure. I've seen them 8 times already. So tonight is the 9th time.
I first saw it was a long time coming. The first time was San Diego 2017 at the Petco Park Hardwired Tour.
Can you narrow it down to a favorite song?
spit out the bone.
You mean all-time favorite song?
Absolutely the best. I'm hoping to hear it tonight for the first time live.
Alrighty. You got a good chance of that, I think.
I think so. I've been, as any other fan, been studying the set list from previous, and they played Fight Fire with Fire in Salt Lake City, and I think that means tonight, spit out the bone.
I think you may be right, but we never really know.
Halo and Fire, I guess.
Okay.
Right now. But I also love the classics, Sad But True and The Sandman. Really hoping for Harvest of Sorrow tonight.
Sure.
Because I haven't seen it live before.
Well, let's hope you get what you want to see.
I want to see Harvest of Sorrow, All Nightmare Long, and Murder One.
There we go. All right.
I don't think we'll get Murder One.
You never know what they're going to do, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Favorite song is Battery.
Ooh, nice. Can you narrow it down to a favorite album?
Probably Black Album, just because that's what got me in the Gulf War.
Okay.
It's going to be like the first favorite.
These are tough questions.
I know. That's why I asked them.
Ride the Lightning.
Puppets.
Do you have a favorite band member, past or present?
Oh, he's James.
James is the man.
What he's gone through in life, and all the challenges, and persevering, and where they're at today, and seeing him. We always get up right up front. He looks really happy, very healthy. After a life of challenges, that a lot of people go through.
How about favorite band member? Do you have one that
Kirk Hammett, definitely.
Kirk's your favorite?
Yeah, because I play guitar myself, so yeah, obviously Kirk.
James Hetfield.
James is the man. You
James
didn't,
is
you
the
didn't
man.
hesitate. What do you think about Brewer? Jim Brewer opening the show.
I think it's different. We saw the DJ open up in Seattle, and I like, whoever they decide to open up for them, I trust it.
Okay, cool. That's good philosophy. They haven't failed us many times.
I tried to go in with a neutral opinion. I didn't like his show, I have to admit. I'm sorry about that.
He wants honesty.
But
Okay.
I didn't like it.
I've just been asking people about Jim.
Yeah.
I love Jim Brewer. Watched him on Saturday Night Live, and I love heavy metal guy, Gunnar Olsen. He's great. He's awesome.
Do you have someone in your life that you credit solely for, one individual that you credit with turning you on to the band, or how did you come about becoming a Metallica fan?
No one.
Stumbled across
just
yourself?
Found it. Yeah, just found it. I grew up in Detroit, born and raised, so I was born and raised on rock. But there was no metal, nothing heavy. None of my friends, my dad, nothing. That was all me. I was just like, I like this better.
It's kind of weird. I think a friend gave me their album. Then I got to listen to it, and I was first like, and then suddenly I fell in love. Tried to play the songs on guitar, and that's how I lost my heart to Metallica.
Do you have anyone in your life that turned you on to the band in the first place, or how did you come about being a Metallica
I had
fan?
a friend in junior high that was super into hard rock and metal, and she kind of introduced me to the Load album, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, I'm listening to this now. It really resonated with me. It's awesome.
Cool friend.
Yeah, she was rad.
Okay, we come from all walks of life as Metallica fans. What do you do for a living job?
I'm a nurse. I work on a HDU, so I got patients with heart attack and stuff like that. It's a monitoring unit, so hard work. And
Okay.
busy.
We come from all walks of life as Metallica fans. What do you do for a living?
I am a Pilates instructor, and on the side, I wait tables.
I hesitate to say pretend Metallica doesn't exist. Not counting Metallica, give me 3 bands that in your life you've really enjoyed. 3 favorite bands.
Alice in Chains. I really love how they persevered, also still doing it.
Okay.
I think mad respect there. Chevelle's always intrigued me also. And then I'm going to go back to my early roots, Boston.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey.
that's a hometown favorite. That's Dad. That's me and Dad.
That's a perfect answer.
Slipknot, definitely, for the talent, and Linkin Park.
Okay, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Never heard of them.
Oh,
Might have
check
to look
them out,
into
man.
that.
Chick lead singer, she's fucking rad.
Well, I'm there. If Metallica themselves should happen to see this video at some point in the future, Do you have a message for them?
Yeah. Thank you for everything you do. The message, the professionalism, perfection, and always making the fans feel like they're number one. The sincerity of what you do is it's just unbelievable. Thank you.
If Metallica themselves were to happen to see this video, do you have a message for them?
Message. I would thank them so much for writing those awesome songs, because they've helped me go through a lot of things in life, and also they really get me excited each time I see them. So yeah, a big thank you.
If the band members themselves should happen to see this at any point in the future, do you have a message for them?
Thank you for being awesome people and just being in touch with the fans all the time. They're one of the few bands that really try and let their fan base know what's going on, and I think that's really, really cool. Just thank you for rocking on and keeping what you're doing, and we love you.
The day that never comes. It just came. It was here. We did it. That's from Death Magnetic, I think. I don't know. We got a lot of albums now.